So maybe you've tried credit repair before and it didn't work. I want to speak to that because every now and then I do have, a client that has mentioned that they tried to hire a company or maybe they try to do it themselves. More so, they hired a company and their claim is that it didn't work. It didn't work for them, and it puts them in a position where they're pretty much giving up on the idea of raising their score or improving their credit or just repairing their credit in general. So I want to speak to that. So the number one reason I kind of pinpoint as to why someone would say that, it usually is connected to the experience that they had with a pretty bad company that they hired to and entrusted to repair their credit. And many times that's really where the root of that complaint is coming from, because that company didn't do a great job, whether it's bad communication or just an overall bad process, and it leads that individual to believe in the process less. Believe in credit repair just doesn't work. And here's what I mean by that. Sometimes this company may make these claims, whether they're online advertising or they got print advertising, and they're making these claims like increase your credit score 100 points in 30 days or even in a shorter time. And for the most part, a lot of people are getting pretty smart to that and realizing that's kind of I kind of doubt that. That seems too good to be true, and good for you guys if you can kind of spot that BS, I guess, if you want to call it, and not fall for that, right? Because although it could happen, it really is the exception to the real credit repair process. It doesn't, it's rare that may happen, those kind of results. Realistically, the credit repair process is about a 3 to 6 month, maybe even a 9-month process. But, it doesn't mean it doesn't happen. It's just that it's the outlier. And then the issue is that some companies will use that outlier as their marketing material. See your score raise 100 points, 150 points in as little as 30 days, right? And so, the company promises, everything underneath the moon and the stars, and then the client goes through the program, pays them their fee, and they don't really see those types of results. They were led and to believe that their score would go up that fast, and they don't see it, and therefore they kind of give up, right? Or they just give up hope, or they just don't think the process works. So the expectations were poorly set from the beginning. So that's one of the reasons why I see when I have dialogue with many of my clients as to they had a bad experience with a credit repair company in the past, and what was that reason? And a lot of times that was the reason. So let's unpack reason 2, which has to do with the expectations that are being set. So reason number 2 being poor expectations being set. And this is very similar to, reason 1, which is, all based on what the company says. But a reputable credit repair company is going to be very transparent, very honest and upfront with that individual. And sometimes credit repair companies that advertise, in the way that seems a little bit misleading, they may not even engage with the client. They may not have an upfront conversation with them or look at their credit report with them and be specific as to what could happen and what should be done and things like that. And so, that leads a lot of people on to believe that, that their file is going to be pretty easy and there's not going to be anything that they need to do and so on and so forth. And those are some really bad expectations coming into the process. But a good credit repair company is going to tell you, it's going to take some time. It may take 3 months, maybe 6 months, maybe 9 months. It's going to take some time to really make some progress and thoroughly explain what credit repair is and what credit repair is not. And then keep you in the loop each month after that, right? As long as you're a member of the program, keeping you up to speed and in the loop with what's going on with your credit and your credit repair process is very critical. And that's a good marker of a good company. A bad company is someone who sets really bad expectations, is unrealistic with what can happen, and is not really transparent and upfront as to how your situation should go or what the game plan should be. So the problem is that the companies just don't do that. The ones that don't do it are the ones that typically have clients that go to different companies or different organizations and says, well, I tried, it didn't really work. And then you dig a little bit deeper, you peel the onion back a little bit more, and you realize, well, it's all based on a bad experience they had with that company. Another reason, reason number 3 would be poor communication, from that company. And sadly, even though communication it's so much easier to communicate with people these days, there's so many different ways to communicate with people, that sadly this still happens, in the credit repair industry. Situation where a consumer hires a credit repair company. Maybe they found them online on one of those promises that they're made, and like, oh, that sounds pretty good, let me hire them. Pays them their fee online, and then they never hear from them ever again. And this leads to people being scammed, and some people just flat out giving up hope on repairing their credit or raising their score. Or sometimes maybe that's not the situation. Maybe the company takes their fee and gives it a shot, but they don't really have a bona fide process to really get the job done for somebody. Maybe their follow-up system's not that great, or maybe they don't have enough staff. Maybe they're a one-man or one-woman band really trying to grow their business, kind of faking it to the making it, but then they bite off more they can chew when they advertise a certain way and start getting clients, and they don't really have a good back-end process to really fulfill what they kind of set out to do. So sometimes that's not intentionally done by the company, but we don't have good systems in place. There's poor communication on the backside that can really lead to people feel like they've been misled, or they've been scammed, and then they just kind of just give up on credit repair. They just, again, make that comment that it doesn't work. Credit repair does not work. So either way, the poor communication that occurs can lead to people feeling that way. And lastly, just a poor, or just a amateur dispute process, if you will. Simply put, a lot of credit repair companies, they're not seasoned enough. They haven't seen enough credit reports and had enough clients to really make their process, bona fide, and they have a very amateur dispute process. A good company will address the credit bureaus as well as the data furnishers, which are like the debt collectors or the creditors. But most credit repair companies, sadly, and maybe I shouldn't say most, maybe I'll say a good amount of the credit repair companies, they just contact the credit bureaus on behalf of their client, just dealing with the bureaus, which is like half the battle, right? The other half comes from dealing with the debt collectors and the creditors and communicating with them. So a good company is going to be versatile, very communicative, and is not going to have like a one size fits all kind of program. It's going to be very adaptable, and they're going to have different processes for different things. So basically, every client does get that unique treatment that they so desire and so need. So only addressing the bureaus and dealing with the credit bureaus, only the company is not going to be able to really get the results that most people need, and that does lead to some people feeling like, again, credit repair doesn't work. Now, the good thing is with my course that I put together, the Credit Score Blueprint course, I'll basically teach you exactly what needs to get done to work on your credit. You'll see interactive videos and templates that deal with the bureaus as well as the data furnishers, which again are the debt collectors and the creditors. It's loaded with tons of helpful videos. I have dozens of letter templates for just about every different scenario, and these templates are battle-tested templates. I've used these templates with my own clients, so they do work. They are effective. You will see results. So if you are on that brink of just giving up on your own credit, or just you're about there, believing that credit repair doesn't work, I would encourage you to really give it a second look. You deserve that. Especially if you're making good money, you've been saving, you want to buy a house. Don't give up, right? Don't just continue renting. Don't continue paying those high interest rates. With inflation on the rise, cost of living continues to go up. So you don't really need anything adding to that, right? You don't really need anything adding to your financial burden. So if you can kind of help alleviate that and make your finances breathe a little bit by having lower interest rates and maybe owning your own house as opposed to renting, those are some things that certainly credit can do for you. So if you've been beat up in the past by a third-party company, didn't really work out for you, give my course another look, or give my course a look in the first place. It's creditscoreblueprint.com. You can check out the link in my bio or in the description somewhere. And that does take that third-party element out of the picture, because you're doing it yourself, right? All the content, everything you need to know what to do is there for you, and you are in control. You're the one that's actually working on your own credit, so you have a little bit more control there. So don't give up on your credit. And really, that is my time for today. Be sure to check out my course. Don't forget to subscribe, so whenever there's a new video that's dropped, you're one of the first ones to know about it, so you can stay in the loop of what's going on in the credit industry. Again, I'm Joe Chavarria. This has been another episode of the Joe Credit Show. I'll see you guys next time. Take care.